He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice. Singing in the village choir, it makes his heart rejoice.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ex-Fundie Diaries. My name is Elly, my pronouns are she, her, and this video is about the loneliness of Fundie homeschooling. I was homeschooled for 9 years, 3rd through 5th grade and again in 7th through 12th. The purpose of this was to keep me isolated from the world, to be in and not of. Because of this, I felt like an outsider nearly everywhere I went, and I was always desperate for connection and belonging. I have shared a timeline of my school experience before, but I will share it again to give context for this video. In kindergarten through 2nd grade, I went to a small, strict Anglican school that had about 15 students per grade. In 3rd through 5th grade, I was homeschooled, and I was a part of a Christian homeschool co-op. In 6th grade, I went back to the Anglican school because my mom liked the teacher. Then in 7th through 12th grade, I was homeschooled again. These middle school through high school years were a very disorganized mix of co-ops, homeschool academies, and being completely home at times. The main curriculum that was used both at the Anglican school and all throughout my homeschooling experience was Abeka, which is produced by Pensacola Christian Academy in Florida. What drew my parents to Abeka was the biblical worldview that it taught, as well as the DVD program that was offered. In addition to the textbooks and teacher keys, homeschool parents could order sets of DVDs that showed daily tapings of the classrooms at Pensacola Christian Academy. Homeschool students all across the country could follow along with the lessons every day in their own home. I was one of those students. To give you an idea of what it looked like, here are some clips of the Abeka DVDs that I was able to find on YouTube.
Good morning, boys and girls and students watching.
Good morning, Miss Wheeler.
Chase is our pledge leader. Let's get our day started. The American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Watch my hands for when you're to stand on your verses. Ready? Exodus 20, 3 through 5a.
7 through 8, 12 through 17.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery.
I can be a little missionary if the gospel story to the lost I carry. I can work for Jesus in the homeland. Lord, we are little children, very young indeed, but the Savior's promise each of us may plead. If we seek him early, if we come today, we can be his little friends, he has said we may.
Boys, you'll start us on our verses. Girls, the wise thing to do would be practicing because I'll switch you in the middle. Here we go, boys. Exodus
20 through 5a, 7 through 8, 12 through 17. Thou shalt have no other.
Stop, you added a word. Thou shalt have no other gods. One more time, everybody. Thou shalt have no other gods. Students watching, as you see this card throughout the day, think of the lessons that our Lord has shared with us through the scriptures and make an attempt to do those today.
How many people today will tell you, oh, you can't get an education at home? Is that right? Check out how many of your first 16 presidents were educated at home, either by tutors or by themselves. Abraham Lincoln didn't even have a tutor. Abraham Lincoln would come home from hard work, sit in a chair right with a fire, open up books and read law books, taught himself Latin, taught himself all he would ever need to know. The man never had one day of formal schooling. He educated himself right through and became president of these United States.
I can't remember exactly which years I used the DVDs because, as I said, it was very disorganized, especially in the junior high and high school years. But I know for sure that I used them through 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And doing these DVDs had a pretty big impact on me, and I have some very distinct memories of using them for my schooling. At the time, we lived in an old farmhouse from the early 1900s. We did have electricity and modern appliances, but it kind of looked like we shouldn't have. It had a washroom, and that was where my mom set me up for school every day. She put a long card table up against the wall by the window, and I would sit at one end, and at the other end was my portable DVD player, where I would watch my daily lessons. Now, I say daily because that's when I was supposed to be watching them, but as I shared in my homeschool video with my sibling Annie, daily was not really the way that we did school. We were always behind, we were often on the go, and we had little to no structure. So on the days that I was doing my DVDs, I would usually have to watch multiple lessons in order to try to catch up. Unfortunately, I was getting no instructional help from my mom, so I was really struggling academically. And when the teacher would ask me, a student watching, questions, I often didn't know the answer. And there were often times that the children in the classrooms would be giving presentations, for example, a book report. And the teacher at that point would always turn to the camera and say, students watching, please turn off your cameras and give the book report to your, I forget exactly what they called it, but something like your in-home teacher. So that was supposed to be either a parent or maybe like a teacher at a homeschool co-op. And I would go to my mom and I would tell her, I'm supposed to give this book report to you. And she would say, skip it. Every time she was supposed to be filling in those gaps in the DVD lessons, she would opt out. And as a kid, that actually really stressed me out. I was so worried about not doing what I was supposed to be doing for school. I was already so behind, and I was struggling with the material. I needed help, and I wasn't getting it. It was an awful Christian nationalist, evangelical fundamentalist curriculum, so it's not like I would have been learning anything useful anyways. But in the environment that I was in, I would have felt so much more confident and sure of myself if we had been following along with what we were supposed to be doing. And feeling like I was failing in school just added to the negative feelings I felt about having to be homeschooled in the first place. And the social aspect of that really affected me, even at such a young age. I had just gone from a school environment where I was seeing kids every day, from kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then all at once, that was taken away from me. And I was sitting at this card table in the laundry room staring at a DVD player. And yes, we were part of a co-op, but my mom opted out of most of the actual subjects that the students would do as a group. And so we really just went to the park days for the most part. And the park days were once a week, if I was lucky. Because if it rained, we couldn't go. If someone was super sick with the flu, we couldn't go. If I didn't get my schoolwork done for the day, I couldn't go, which was often because, again, I was super behind and had no support. So I would wait and wait for those park days once a week, and if they didn't happen, that would mean it would be a 2-week, 3-week period where I wasn't being able to socialize with other kids my age. And there were a couple of other activities that I did during this 3rd grade to 5th grade time period. I did Irish dancing, I did 4-H, and I also went to this church group for girls called Pioneer Club. And I don't remember much about the actual program, but obviously just by that name you can tell it was super, super fundy. But at both Irish dancing and 4-H, these were secular settings, so I was the only Fundie homeschooler there, and I didn't fit in, I didn't really have any friends, and I just felt really out of place. And at the church group, Pioneer Club, you would think that that would be a place where a Fundie homeschool kid like me could make friends. But a lot of them went to school, whether it was public or private, so I didn't fit in there either. Most of them were allowed to do a lot of things that I wasn't allowed to do, including like listening to secular music. I didn't get any of their pop culture references. I usually had no idea what anyone was talking about. And I just remember feeling myself like really shrinking in a social way. You know, I think in 3rd grade at the beginning of homeschooling is when my social anxiety really activated. And I just remember feeling so tense around the other kids at Pioneer Club and like really wanting to connect with them and wanting to say the right thing, but then feeling embarrassed when I would say something weird or out of place. There are 2 kids from Pioneer Club that really stick out in my memory. They were these twins, and they were a couple years older than me, and I thought they were so cool. And one night, it was their birthday, and I remember as one of them was going out the door, I was like, "Happy birthday, Desi!" Everyone around my table burst into laughter because it was the wrong twin. I had used the name of the other twin for the one that I was talking to. And I was so embarrassed. It was one of those moments that even at that young age, I just played over and over and over in my mind for years. For years it haunted me, like, oh my gosh, like how could I have done that? Like I shouldn't have said anything. And I think that became a strategy for me sometimes, is I just shouldn't say anything, because if I open my mouth and I say something, I'm going to embarrass myself. The other memory that I have of those twins, who I thought were really cool, one night they were singing along to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. So they had a big silver boombox on the floor, and they were dancing along to the music video and singing along to it. And I was like, wow, this is such a cool song. Like, I want to learn the lyrics. I want to learn this dance. And then I don't remember what the conversation was with my mom afterwards, but I'm sure it was something like, "Mom, there's this super cool song. Have you ever heard of this band? Can we get a CD?" And she was like, "No, absolutely not. You know, we will only listen to music that glorifies God." So because I struggled so much to make friends and to have these ongoing social connections, I would actually pretend that the kids in the Abeka DVDs were my friends. I would pick out random kids that were my favorite in my classes, and I would pretend that we were friends in real life. And I would daydream about who they were and what their personalities were. And I remember telling my mom that I really wish these DVDs came with videos that introduced each of the kids. Like, I wanted kind of like a profile for each kid, you know? Like, I wanted to be able to go to the menu, click on their name, and then have like a 5-minute video where they answer some questions about themselves. Like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. My favorite color is this. My favorite food is this. My favorite hobby is this." And the other thing that I really wish these DVDs came with was recess. I wished that Pensacola Christian Academy would film the recess times of the kids that were in the classes that I was watching. And looking back, this is probably the funniest but also saddest part. I was so desperate for social interaction that I wanted to just be able to watch other kids that I didn't even know have recess with each other. I just wanted to watch them. play games and chat with each other. Like, I don't even know how I was expecting that to work. Like, they would just set up a camera in a stationary place and kids would just mill around and do whatever, and I could just sit there and watch them. Or if, you know, somebody would go around with a camera and like interview the kids during recess. But I told my mom that, and I remember her laughing and thinking that it was funny. And it was, but I think it also should have been an indicator to her of how lonely I was. To be fair, I definitely have some fun memories from the homeschool co-op that we were a part of. We did a couple of really fun plays, and we even went on a camping trip in 5th grade. And my mom actually let me go with another family. I remember we brought our bikes and the campsite had paved pathways, and so we would just ride our bikes around in a big homeschool kid pack. But even though I did really enjoy spending time with those kids from the co-op, again, I didn't get to see them very often, and I really didn't feel very close to any of them. I wanted to, and I tried really hard to become really close friends with them, but we were not nearly as involved as many of the other families were, and so they would see each other a lot more, and they would naturally form these stronger bonds, and I would often feel left out. And this was so hard to have really my only true social outlet from 3rd to 5th grade also be a place where I didn't feel like I completely belonged. And that really, really added to the loneliness. In my next video, I'll be talking about the loneliness I experienced in both middle school and high school. And I'll also be sharing more reasons why Fundie homeschooling is so inherently lonely. So please be on the lookout for that video. It will hopefully be coming out not too long after this one. As of right now, I haven't had a chance to film it yet, so if anyone has questions about homeschooling they'd like to ask me, feel free to put it down in the comments and maybe I'll be able to incorporate it into that video. If I can't get to them in time, I will save them and answer them in my next Q&A. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our Autumn Festival. This will be where you can sing to Jesus with all our friends. Happy harvest everyone. Goodbye.